Hi everybody and welcome to my tutorial on drawing the male figure. It's going to be really easy, really basic. This is kind of what I'm going to show you how to draw. I made a tutorial on how to draw the female figure, and it's going to be a lot like that tutorial. You don't necessarily have to watch it to understand what's going to happen in this one, but in case you're interested, just click right here and go watch it. Okay, so like in my tutorial on drawing the female figure, I have these guidelines, and they're going to be the same height. I drew her 7 heads tall, and I'm going to draw him 7 heads tall. And the labeling of these lines are pretty much the same thing, except right here was under breast, so this was the line that went under the breast, and this is actually under the pecs, which is the muscles that are under breasts anyway, so that's what that line's going to be. That's the only difference here. So to start out to draw, I always draw a stick figure, or at least I often do, and basically you just draw a circle here. This is the head, and the chin's going to lay right here. This chin isn't laying right on the line. That's my fault for kind of just doing this a little quickly, but generally you want the head to be, between these two lines. And then I just have a straight line kind of representing the spine, and this is kind of gonna set your character's pose and their posture. So he's standing straight up, so this is a relatively straight line. Here's the shoulder line. Shoulders are going to be a little bit under the chin line here. And as you can see, it says under pecs. I haven't drew the pecs here yet, but you can see here the elbows are usually around the waistline, and this is what this is. This is the waist, which is, under between the pecs and the hips line, a little bit closer to the hips. And here are some circles for the hips, and this is for his pelvis. This line's going to be right under the knees, so you draw like little circles for the knees, and this is right above the ankle, and here's some little weird lines for the feet, and I drew these little ovals for the hands as well. So the next step is the figure. If you did watch my female figure tutorial, you would notice that this is a lot more a lot more circles, a lot more kind of square shapes too. And that's because men are usually, bigger than women. I drew the woman really soft and slender, but curvy. I used a lot of circles and ovals for the women to kind of help understand their curves. The men aren't really as curvy, so the shoulders are wide, but the hips are narrow. Everything else, is kind of bulky compared to the woman. This line right here is actually more of the muscles that go on, like, the neck and shoulders and stuff, and the the shoulders still be like right here. So that's like where the collarbone is, and this is just actually muscle, and I kind of just put that there to kind of help myself understand where the muscles would go. Alright, so the next step is to, outline. You can see here I kind of, I went in and did some detail on the head, kind of put in the neck muscles here, drew in the collarbone and the definition of his pecs. I did not draw any abs. I don't really want to go into that. I kind of find drawing abs and getting them to look just right to be a little difficult, so I didn't even bother putting it into this tutorial right now. This is just a basic figure, not necessarily a muscle study. If you want to learn how to do muscles, maybe I'll do a tutorial on that, but that's like a completely different study. But I did kind of give some definition on his shoulders and his upper and lower arms too. These lines kind of indicate where the inside of his elbows and the muscle. Here's like his ribs, and then here's like his pelvic bones here. Drawing a belly button. His legs are, I guess, not necessarily bigger than the woman's, but I kind of drew them a little rounder, I guess, a little more harshly, a little more, just a little different. Here I just drew in the feet. and then a little more detail, clothes, face, some shading, and I came up with that. Really, really simple. So now I'm just going to take you step by step again, drawing a completely different pose. Okay, you see here, I already drew the stick figure. In this pose, he's kind of turning away, but his face is almost completely turned facing the viewer. And he's holding something, so that's why I drew this line here. You don't really see this far arm in like the reference I'm looking at, but it kind of just looked weird without it. It'll look better once you have the actual figure fully drawn. So, you know, I kind of followed these guidelines. You know, here's his shoulders, his elbow. You know, this is where his pecs will go. His hips, knees, feet, all that good stuff. So let's go right into the figure. So here's our finished figure. You don't actually see his right arm because it's kind of covered by his body, which is fine. You might have noticed I drew the legs kind of multiple times because I wanted them to be a little bit more bulky. Basically, the bigger and more rounded you make the parts, the more muscular they'll look. So if you draw them like, you know, really thin and kind of straight, they'll look bony, but if you draw them big and circular, they'll look more muscular. So let's just go into the outline now. I'm going to bring this down a bit so we can see, and I'm going to take away the stick figure. You can do this, you don't have to have Photoshop or any kind of, you know, digital drawing software. You could just do this with paper, with like tracing paper and Lightbox. But I don't have either, but I don't have a Lightbox, so... Okay, so a couple of things to keep in mind when you're drawing a man is that they're typically bigger than women. So when you're doing your figure drawing, try to keep the shapes kind of big, kind of bulky. Draw harshly, more harsh than you would with women. Women typically have softer lines, softer curves, while men are just have harsher lines. A couple of details is, you know, make sure you draw their Adam's apple, which is right about here. I usually just draw like a little half circle to remind myself of that. And here you can kind of see this part is where the forearm's kind of giving into the upper arm. If you want to draw them muscular, you would want some sort of detail like that. Lines to kind of indicate roundness in their arms to suggest muscles. And muscles aren't perfectly round either, so don't, you know, start drawing the muscles like they're circles like this necessarily. Most of the time, if you look at muscle references, they're more lumpy. So like you can kind of see here, it's kind of like a curvy line. So, you know, you want to keep that in mind when you're trying to do muscles, because I'm pretty sure most people, if they want to draw men, they're going to draw them muscular, just like how most people are probably going to draw women really curvy and sexy. So just keep that in mind. Pecs kind of are rounded rectangles almost, so you kind of want to keep that in mind when you're drawing. At least that's kind of how I see them. So you can kind of see they're kind of rectangle. No? So they're kind of rectangle, and so are abs. Abs are kind of like boxy too, but they're rounded. And the more lines you put on, the more muscular they're gonna look. So if you want to draw abs and you're drawing them like this, they're gonna look even more defined. Whereas if you kind of just suggest it and kind of just put like smaller lines, then they'll look less toned, but they're still there. They're still muscular, just not as muscular. So men aren't as curvy. Typically men have broad shoulders and narrow hips. So you can make them into like upside down triangle shape, which is usually what people do when they draw men. So they kind of draw men almost like this. Whereas, women have the hourglass shape. So if you keep that kind of thing in mind, you'll kind of better understand how men differ from women when you're drawing them. Of course, everyone comes in all sorts of shapes and sizes, but this is kind of just a basic overview of how to draw male figure. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope it helped you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Or if you have any suggestions on tutorials or just drawings that you'd like to see, leave a comment, shoot me a message. I love to get some feedback. What you could also do is maybe try downloading this from my website and giving it a shot. Draw it or just color it if you want, and you can leave it as a video response. Draw it in Photoshop or on paper or however you want. I would love to see other people's progress in drawing. There will be more videos to come, so I hope you subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!